I'll rip his throat out. I'll pull his eyes out. I will, when he's dead, I'll make sure that dead. I need fucking 10 minutes to make sure he's dead.
So this is Toronto Mayor Rob Ford threatening to murder someone. This video was obtained by the Toronto Star, and it's actually Rob Ford's least incriminating video. There's another video, long rumored to have existed, showing the mayor smoking crack. Toronto police have that video, and Mayor Ford was forced to do what no mayor ever really wants to do, and that's admit that he smoked crack.
Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
When,
but
sir?
no, do I? Am I an addict? No.
When have you?
Have I tried it? Probably in one of my drunken stupors, probably approximately about a year ago.
So to recap here, the mayor of the fourth largest city in North America smoked crack and apparently wants to murder someone. Now the interesting part, his approval ratings are going up. As the Toronto Star reports, since the crack revelations, the mayor's approval rating has ticked up, going from 39% to 44%. Meanwhile, during the same time, President Obama's approval rating has dropped to 39% last week, his lowest ever. And his Chum Gang days are long behind him. So what exactly is going on here? Well, it's fairly easy to explain the president's failing numbers. There's the botched Obamacare rollout, the NSA revelations, a pretty crummy economy, a perception that the wealthy are being catered while the working class is being left behind. All that stuff conspires pretty well together to sink some poll numbers. Meanwhile, things like smoking crack and embarrassing caught-on-camera moments, as much as the media likes to harp on them, they don't really affect voters' perceptions. You remember Marion Barry? Well, he got caught smoking crack while he was mayor of, right here, the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., back in 1990. He even went to jail for it. But how did the voters react? Well, they elected him mayor again a few years later. Because people like seeing humanity from their leaders. People like flaws. Voters can relate to people flawed like them. And let's face it, Rob Ford looks like a wacky uncle we all have, who sometimes drinks too much at family gatherings, but he tells killer jokes and wrestles with all the cousins, which in a way makes him kind of trustworthy, kind of likable, even if his only accomplishment in office so far is privatizing part of the city's garbage collection. Now, that doesn't excuse smoking crack, but it explains why voters may give him cover for smoking crack. After all, this was the best thing former President George W. Bush, also very flawed, had going for him. And that's the point that Dennis Pilon, a political scientist from York University in Toronto, made recently in the Washington Post. He wrote, part of Rob Ford's appeal is that he does make a lot of mistakes. He does speak improperly. And when his critics attack him, that just reinforces the support among alienated populists who also feel that they don't always speak properly, that they make mistakes. In the U.S., there was a somewhat similar dynamic that was often attributed to George W. Bush. The more that the New York Times criticized him for misspeaking or whatnot, that bolstered his support. And then there's New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who has a knack for connecting with voters too. Maybe it's because of his homely appearance or penchant for angry outbursts. Whatever it is, voters like him too, as this week's elections proved. The more he does the atypical thing like yelling at voters rather than kissing babies, his numbers go up. Though I wouldn't suggest jumping to using hard drugs anytime soon. The point is, the stereotypical politician, whether a cool intellectual like Barack Obama or a chiseled prep like Mitt Romney, doesn't have as much slack with voters anymore, because these guys have become the faces of what's wrong with politics, not just in the U.S., but in Canada too. Meanwhile, the unconventional, the Rob Fords, the Chris Christies, people who look like their fellow disenchanted average Joe Americans and Canadians, they are gaining popularity, no matter what skeletons or crack pipes they may have in their closet. In Washington, D.C., Sam Sachs, RT.